Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. I never thought I'd find myself sitting across from her, the papers in my hand, my heart pounding like it was betraying me. Emily. My Emily. We had been married for 12 years, shared dreams, bills, inside jokes, and enough memories to fill a small library. And now it all boiled down to a single sheet of paper. Divorce. My hand shook slightly as I placed the documents on the kitchen counter. She looked up from her phone, her face a mix of irritation and boredom, like I was an interruption in her perfectly ordered life. Across from her sat her friend, Lily, bright-eyed, cheerful, the type of person who always seemed to see the world through rose-colored glasses. She leaned forward, her voice soft but pointed. I mean, Sarah, she's such a good girl. You know that, right? I met her gaze calmly, carefully choosing my words. Yeah, she's a good girl, I said slowly, almost savoring the pause. But only with your husband. The weight of that statement seemed to hang in the air. Emily blinked, as if it had taken her a moment to truly register what I had said. Lily's smile faltered slightly, the corners of her lips twitching in that subtle way that tells you someone is reconsidering what they thought they knew. I wasn't here to argue or explain myself. I wasn't here to beg. I was here to draw a line I should have drawn years ago. When we first met, Emily had been magnetic, full of laughter and warmth. I was Jake, the quiet guy with a steady job, who liked Sunday breakfasts and long drives to nowhere. She had loved that about me. She had told me more than once. We fit, at least for a while. There was a rhythm to our life. Little rituals, late-night conversations, dinners shared with love and laughter. But somewhere around year 7, the pattern began to fray. Little things at first. The touch of her hand on my shoulder that once lingered now barely brushed. The jokes I told that once made her laugh now met with distracted glances at her phone. I convinced myself it was work stress, exhaustion, something temporary. I tried. I really did. But as I placed the divorce papers in front of her, I realized that the temporary had stretched into years. And yet, there was this strange calm in my chest, this quiet acceptance. I wasn't angry anymore. Not really. Just tired of pretending that her indifference was a challenge I could fix. Lily, sensing the shift, tried again. Jake, she's really a good girl. You're being too harsh. I let out a quiet chuckle, almost inaudible. Good girl. If you're her husband? I repeated softer this time. That's the problem, Lily. I'm not anymore. There was a long pause. You could almost hear the clock ticking in the silence. Emily didn't argue. She didn't cry. She just looked down, fiddling with the edge of her sleeve. The air between us had changed. Something that had been dull and heavy for years finally snapped into clarity. It wasn't about blame. It wasn't about anger. It was about recognition. I had stayed longer than I should have, hoping she would come back, hoping the person I loved would reappear. But love can't exist in one direction forever. And in that moment, I knew I had chosen myself. I remembered the first time we had laughed uncontrollably over nothing. The lazy Sunday mornings when breakfast tasted sweeter simply because we were together. Those memories stung now, but they were mine to keep. And for the first time in years, I felt a small flicker of freedom. If you've ever had to make a decision like this, or stayed too long in a relationship that wasn't working, I want to know. Comment below with your story. Sharing helps more than you think. Her friend tried once more, a slight edge of worry creeping into her voice. Jake, are you sure about this? I nodded, my expression calm, resolute. I'm sure. This isn't about hate, or anger, or punishment. It's about reality. And reality doesn't wait for anyone to catch up. I could feel Emily's gaze on me, sharp now, as if seeing me for the first time in years. And that was the irony. She had always thought she knew me. She hadn't. I had grown quiet, silent, patient, and in all that time, I had also grown aware of my own worth. And now, I wasn't willing to give it away for someone who didn't see it. If the story resonates with you, consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear it today. Sometimes the right story at the right time can change perspective. The room felt different after that. The air was heavier, yes, but lighter too, like a storm had passed, leaving a strange kind of calm behind. Emily and Lily exchanged a look that spoke volumes. And I simply picked up my coat, ready to step out into a world that was uncertain, yes, but entirely mine again. I walked out of the kitchen and into the hallway, the sound of my footsteps echoing softly against the wooden floor. There was no shouting, no slamming doors, no dramatic finale. Just the quiet, deliberate rhythm of someone reclaiming their life. I paused at the front door, hand on the doorknob, and took a slow breath. For years, I had measured myself by her mood, her approval, her fleeting attention. Now none of that mattered. I remembered the mornings I had woken up alone, the subtle shifts in her tone that used to make my stomach knot. Those small rejections, day after day, had eroded me. And now, here I was, holding the divorce papers like a symbol of clarity, of self-respect. Sometimes it's the simplest gestures that carry the heaviest weight. As I stepped outside, the crisp evening air hit me, and for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, I exhaled fully. The city sounds hummed around me, distant traffic, faint laughter from a nearby park, but I was in my own bubble, a quiet pocket of freedom that didn't require anyone's validation. I drove to my favorite coffee shop, the one where the baristas knew me by name, and ordered a black coffee. Sitting by the window, I watched people pass, couples laughing, friends chatting, strangers absorbed in their own little worlds. I felt a strange mixture of envy and contentment. Envy because some people seem to take love effortlessly. Contentment because I finally understood that love that needs constant chasing isn't love at all. Over the next few days, Emily and I didn't speak. And that was exactly how it should have been. Silence can be deafening, but it can also be healing. In that silence, I realized that all the years I had invested, not just financially but emotionally, were never wasted. They taught me patience, empathy, and, most importantly, self-worth. One afternoon, as I was sorting through old boxes in the garage, I found a photo of us from our honeymoon. We were smiling, arms wrapped around each other, blissfully unaware of the cracks that would eventually form. I held the photo in my hands, tracing our younger faces, and for a moment, I allowed myself a small smile. It wasn't bitterness or regret. It was recognition. We had loved once, and that was real. But real or not, it had ended. A week later, I ran into Lily at the grocery store. She approached cautiously, hesitant, like she wasn't sure if I would acknowledge her. I gave a small nod, the kind that said, "I see you, but I'm not here to engage in old dramas." She smiled faintly and said, "Emily's been talking." I shook my head gently. "Lily, whatever said isn't my concern. I'm focused on moving forward." Her eyes softened. "I guess I just didn't realize how serious it was for you." I offered a calm smile. "It's been serious for me for a long time, Lily. I just needed to recognize it for what it truly was." The rest of the week was a mix of quiet reflection and small acts of self-care. Cooking a meal I enjoyed, catching up with friends, spending an evening reading a book uninterrupted. It was amazing how small things felt monumental when you're finally living for yourself instead of someone else's expectations. Then came a call from a mutual friend, Olivia, who had always been on Emily's side but had known me well enough to understand my perspective. She asked cautiously if I was okay. I took a deep breath and replied honestly, "I'm better than okay. I'm free. And freedom feels lighter than I imagined." That night, I sat by the window with my notebook, jotting down thoughts I hadn't allowed myself to consider in years. I wrote about the lessons I had learned. Love should never cost your dignity. Silence can be more revealing than words. Walking away doesn't mean you failed. Sometimes it's the only way to succeed. If you've ever struggled to find your own strength in the middle of heartbreak, hit that subscribe button and join a community that values growth, resilience, and self-respect. Stories like this remind us that even endings can bring new beginnings. A few days later, Emily's friend reached out again, this time not in defense, but with a hint of understanding. "Jake, I see now why you did what you did." I nodded, appreciating the acknowledgement but understanding that no words could change what had already been decided. The past was behind me, And the future. Uncertain, yes, but mine. Stretched ahead like an open road waiting to be discovered. In the evenings, I often find myself thinking back to that moment in the kitchen, the papers on the counter, the calm in my own chest. It's a memory that used to sting, but now it feels like a turning point, the moment I reclaimed myself. I no longer define myself by her approval, nor do I seek validation from anyone who wouldn't recognize my worth. I have started reconnecting with hobbies I'd put aside, friends I'd neglected, and parts of myself that had been buried under years of compromise. And in this quiet rediscovery, I found a new kind of happiness, one not dictated by anyone else's idea of good, but by my own. Some nights, I still imagine conversations that never happened, words that were never said. But I've learned that it's okay. The truth is often quieter than we expect, and sometimes the most powerful declarations are made in silence. Because at the end of the day, I didn't just leave a marriage. I left behind expectations, neglect, and the weight of someone else's approval. And in doing so, I finally found myself.